I am a 32-year-old female with a 7-month-old daughter. My husband is 34 years old. My country offers a long maternity leave of up to 2 years, but as a self-employed person, I can't afford to lose my clients. So I try to work while my daughter is sleeping and on weekends. However, recently she has been teething, so I have been operating on very little sleep. I have an issue with my mother-in-law, MIL. She does whatever she wants, even when people ask her not to, and then she says oops or denies doing it. This was annoying before the baby, but it has become unbearable since she was born. My husband talked to her and set boundaries, so she stopped doing it when he is present. However, she still does it when it's just me in the room. We agreed that she cannot visit when my husband is not at home, and my husband is not supposed to leave me alone with her. Because of these boundaries, we didn't see them for 1.5 months. They lived 2 hours away, and we couldn't find a mutually convenient time. Finally, they came over last Sunday. 20 minutes into the visit, my father-in-law, Phil, wanted to see a lawnmower that had broken down. So my husband went into the backyard with him, leaving me, the baby, and my mother-in-law inside. My mother-in-law was drinking coffee and eating cake. She sat next to my daughter on her playmat and tried to feed her some cake. I immediately told her no, she can't have that. My mother-in-law pretended not to hear me and continued to put her spoon to my daughter's closed mouth. I repeated myself, telling her to stop doing that and that my daughter can't have cake yet, especially not from her spoon. But my mother-in-law continued to ignore me. Now there was cake on my baby's face and she was fussing. So I grabbed my daughter and went to find my husband, subtly gesturing for him to come back inside. After about 5 minutes, my mother-in-law decided to go outside too and was approaching me and the baby. I gestured to my husband again and he made an annoyed face. I had no energy to deal with any of this, so I stood up, went inside, grabbed the baby bag and car keys, and went to the car without saying a word. My mother-in-law asked me where I was going, and I ignored her. I drove to my sister's house, which is about a 15-minute drive away. There were some missed calls from my husband, so I texted him to let him know where we were and that we'd be back in the evening. It was time for my daughter's nap, and she fell asleep while breastfeeding, so my sister told me to go sleep too. After she woke up and had her milk, my sister took care of her and told me to go back to sleep. I slept for a total of about 3 hours and my phone was on silent, so I ignored my husband's calls. Apparently, his parents left disappointed and my mother-in-law cried. My husband is furious with me for what I did. We're still arguing about it. He can't believe I was so rude and took the baby away when his parents came to see her after such a long time. He's angry that I couldn't have waited a few more minutes so that he could finish talking about the lawnmower. I told him I'm too exhausted to deal with this situation. He left me alone with my mother-in-law despite our agreement. So I left. Am I the jerk, Aita? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Your mother-in-law should respect your boundaries, especially when it's about your baby. Your husband should also support you on this and talk to her about it instead of making you the bad person. The only thing I think you did wrong was not picking your daughter up after the first time you mentioned it, and your mother-in-law didn't listen. Maybe that would have made things smoother, but it shouldn't really be necessary. It is important for you to stand up for your boundaries, and your husband should support you on that. Sorry if my English isn't perfect. It's not my first language, but I did my best. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Tell your husband to pull his head out of his arse. If he truly can't comprehend how disrespectful it was for your mother-in-law to basically pretend that you don't exist whenever she's left alone with you, then maybe you need a new husband. Your in-laws are your significant other's responsibility. And if he can't manage them, then find a new significant other before you become the villain for rocking the boat. Go check out RR Just No Mail. It's probably the lifeline you need. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks so much for your comments and support on my last post. It's been a challenging couple of weeks since then, and I appreciate you taking the time to read this update. After the incident with my mother-in-law, MIL, and the cake, things have been tense between my husband and me. We've had several heated arguments about the situation, with him insisting that I overreacted and me standing my ground about the importance of respecting our boundaries. A few days after the incident, my husband suggested that we invite his parents over for dinner as a way to smooth things over. I reluctantly agreed, hoping that it would help resolve the tension. However, the dinner turned out to be a disaster. Throughout the evening, my mother-in-law kept making passive-aggressive comments about how she felt unwelcome in our home and how she was being unfairly restricted from spending time with her granddaughter. I tried my best to remain calm and polite, but her constant jabs were wearing me down. The breaking point came when my mother-in-law insisted on giving our daughter a bath before bedtime. I had already expressed my preference for handling our daughter's bedtime routine myself, but my mother-in-law wouldn't take no for an answer. She scooped up our daughter and headed towards the bathroom, completely ignoring my protests. I followed her, trying to reason with her, but she just kept saying that she knew what was best for her granddaughter. When I attempted to take my daughter back from her, my mother-in-law accidentally dropped her into the bathtub. Thankfully, the water wasn't too deep, and our daughter was unharmed, but the incident left me shaken and furious. I immediately asked my in-laws to leave, and my husband, who had witnessed the whole thing, backed me up. However, the damage had already been done. My trust in my mother-in-law was shattered, and I couldn't help but feel that my husband had failed to stand up for me and our daughter. In the days that followed, I learned from my sister-in-law that my mother-in-law had been spreading lies about me to other family members. She had been telling people that I was an unfit mother and that I was trying to keep her away from her granddaughter out of spite. I was devastated by this betrayal and felt like I had no one to turn to. My husband, who had always been close to his mother, struggled to come to terms with her behavior. He tried to defend her actions, saying that she was just trying to help and that I needed to be more understanding. This led to even more arguments between us, and I began to feel like I was losing my partner's support. As I reflected on the situation, I realized that my mother-in-law's behavior wasn't a new problem. Looking back, I could see how she had always been manipulative and controlling, even before our daughter was born. She had a way of making everything about her and disregarding other people's feelings and boundaries. I also realized that my husband's inability to stand up to his mother was rooted in his own childhood experiences. He had grown up in a household where his mother's word was law, and he had never learned how to assert himself or set healthy boundaries. While this realization helped me understand my husband's perspective, it didn't make the situation any easier to deal with. I knew that if we were going to move forward as a family, we needed to have some difficult conversations and make some significant changes. I suggested that we attend couples therapy to work on our communication and boundary setting skills. My husband was hesitant at first, but he eventually agreed to give it a try. We've had a few sessions so far, and while it hasn't been easy, I'm hopeful that we're making progress. In the meantime, I've had to make some tough decisions about my relationship with my mother-in-law. I've decided to limit her visits to our home and to insist that my husband be present whenever she's around our daughter. It's not a perfect solution, but it's the best I can do for now to protect my family's well-being. Thanks again for reading and for your continued support. I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Am I the idiot for yelling at my sister who criticized my wedding plans after her own tragedy? I, 29-year-old female, am planning my wedding for September of this year. It's the end of summer and also the month I met my fiance. My sister Kat, 33-year-old female, was supposed to get married 5 years ago, but her partner died in a motorcycle accident. She was devastated and had a hard time. Since then, she's been very gloomy, and her relationships don't last long. She goes to therapy on and off. When I told my family that I was getting married, Kat was visibly sad. So my mom asked me to involve her in the planning and to ask for her opinion to make her feel part of it. However, she didn't agree with my choice of September, thinking it's a bad month for a wedding. She also didn't like the colors I picked or the dress I wanted. I tried to listen to her sometimes. At one point, she said, "I can't believe you'll be the first daughter not our father, is going to walk down the aisle." I was gutted by her comment. I'm not having a religious ceremony. My fiance's best friend got a license to officiate our marriage, so it's not that serious. With that in mind, I'm planning the wedding to reflect our personalities. My best friend suggested that the bridesmaids wear different colored dresses, but my sister didn't agree. She made some comments like, "It'll look like a gay pride parade, and you're turning your wedding into a gay wedding by listening to all your friends' suggestions." Yes, my best friend is gay, but we have similar tastes, so his opinions are highly valued because they match mine. Last week, we were organizing the entrance of our bridesmaids and best men. In our culture, we call them godfathers as godmothers, and they enter together. I told her that my best friend would enter with his boyfriend. My sister then said my wedding was going to be an absolute circus and that, as my older sister, she should make me see reason. She insisted that two men shouldn't enter the ceremony together because not all guests would understand and appreciate it. Her comments were very annoying and hateful. She continued with her remarks and even called my fiancé to get his opinion. At some point, I was fed up and yelled, "You're out of line because this is my wedding and not yours. Have your own wedding and plan it as you want." I was very angry, and my mom came from the garden to see what was happening. Kat started crying and went to her room. It's been 5 days and she's giving me the silent treatment. She told my mom that she won't be attending my wedding. It's very annoying. She tries to make me feel uncomfortable. For example, if she's in the kitchen and I enter, she leaves. Yesterday, my mom said I should apologize because my sister is fragile and this topic makes her suffer. However, I don't think I'm that much of a jerk. My mom said that yelling at her was a jerk move, even if I was right. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Apparently, it's family members sticking up for shitty people who act shitty to the point one loses their temper around them day. Yes, adults like OP should be able to control their temper and moderate their behavior. But we have a saying for this: people who can dish it out but not take it. People like OP's sister can't expect to be aggressively rude, demeaning, negatively opinionated, and unpleasant without having some pushback on that. And if they ignore more gentle social cues, they're going to get a verbal shotgun unloaded in their face. Tell your mom that the problem isn't that sister is too sensitive, it's that she's too insensitive, and maybe your mom should get on that problem with some belated parenting efforts to help your sister adjust course out of being shitty. Comment 2. You're out of line because this is my wedding and not yours. Not the idiot for that. Have your own wedding and plan it as you want. Borderline AH for that, though. Technically correct, but a low blow. On to another matter. My mom said I should apologize because my sister is fragile, and this topic makes her suffer. Well, that's sad and all, but she needs to bottle it up for a few weeks, because her feelings of sadness do not take precedence over your feelings of joy. If she can't cope with being around a wedding, she needs to back off. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post, and a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks. I want to thank you all for your support and advice. After my fight with Kat, things got even worse. She refused to talk to me or even be in the same room as me. It was really awkward and uncomfortable, especially since we live in the same house. My mom kept trying to get us to make up, but Kat wouldn't budge. She said she was too hurt by what I said and that she couldn't be a part of a wedding that went against her beliefs. I tried to explain to her that my wedding wasn't about her beliefs, but about celebrating my love with my fiancé. I even offered to compromise on some things, like having the bridesmaids wear the same color dresses, but she still wouldn't listen. It was like talking to a brick wall. Things got even more complicated when my fiancé's family got involved. They heard about the drama with Kat and started questioning whether she should even be invited to the wedding. They said they didn't want any negativity or drama on our big day. I was torn because even though Kat was being difficult, she's still my sister and I love her. I decided to try one last time to talk to her. I went to her room and knocked on the door, but she wouldn't answer. I could hear her crying inside, and it broke my heart. I sat down outside her door and started talking to her through the door. I told her how much I loved her and how much I wanted her to be a part of my wedding. I reminded her of all the good times we had together growing up and how much I needed her support. After what felt like hours, she finally opened the door. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying, and she looked exhausted. We sat down on her bed and talked for a long time. She told me how much pain she was still in from losing her fiancé and how seeing me plan my wedding brought up all those old feelings. She said she was jealous of me and angry that I got to have the wedding she never did. I listened to her and tried to understand where she was coming from. I apologized for yelling at her and for not being more sensitive to her feelings. We both cried and hugged each other tight. It felt like a weight had been lifted off both of our shoulders. In the end, we compromised on a few things. Kat agreed to let my best friend and his boyfriend enter the ceremony together, but we decided to have the bridesmaids wear the same color dresses to keep things more traditional. We also agreed to have a moment of silence during the ceremony to remember Kat's fiancé and all the loved ones we had lost. Planning the wedding has been, well, interesting of emotions, but I'm glad Kat and I were able to work things out. It's not perfect, but we're both trying our best to support each other. I know the wedding day will be bittersweet for her, but I'm grateful to have her by my side. Thank you all for reading and for your continued support. It means the world to me. Am I the idiot for walking out on my family gathering? After my parents wouldn't stop discussing my half-sister's non-adoption? My parents are hosting extended family for a couple of weeks. It's my maternal and paternal grandparents, as well as my aunt and uncle on my paternal side. It was going okay until last weekend, and when my parents brought up a topic of conversation that I, 17-year-old male, am so tired of hearing and being pulled into. So let me explain the non-adoption and why it bugs me. My dad had a kid before he met my mom. My half-sister, 24-year-old female. My dad had primary custody of my half-sister. Her mom was in and out of her life. My parents met when my half-sister was 2 and got married when she was 4. Her mom was in and out of prison, was on and off drugs and alcohol, and she was really disruptive to my half-sister's life and to my parents. She refused to stay away, but refused to be a good mom too. When I was 2 or 3, her mom offered to walk away for good, but only if they removed any chance that she could be sued for child support, etc. My mom was willing to adopt my half-sister. The 3 adults wanted this to happen, but because of my half-sister's age, her wishes held a lot of weight, and she didn't want my mom to adopt me, and it never happened. So her mom kept the back and forth for a few more years before giving up the relationship with my half-sister completely. My parents were so upset that my half-sister rejected having a stable and loving mom in my mom for a woman who even she admitted was so mean to her and didn't take good care of her. But my half-sister never really liked my mom from what I witnessed. It's a really big deal to my parents, and I have grown up hearing about it way more than I need to. They told me details I didn't need to know when I was too young to be hearing them. They would suck the fun out of things bringing it up. And I know they hold it against my half-sister. They think my sisters, 14-year-old female and 13-year-old female, and I do too, but the lack of closeness has nothing to do with the non-adoption and everything to do with our half-sister not wanting to be close to us. I asked my parents to stop bringing it up around us a few times. They ignored me until they said they got it and would listen. But last weekend, my parents brought it up while family was over, and I was so not wanting to hear about it. So I got up in the middle of breakfast and left the house and didn't come back all day. My parents were so mad at me for that. I told them I couldn't listen to them talk about it again and they couldn't help themselves. But I wasn't going to turn it into a fight to stop them. They told me walking out without permission is bad enough. But when we have family here, it is disrespectful. And they told me I'm old enough to know and do better. This was a sore point the whole week. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The 3 adults wanted this to happen, but because of my half-sister's age, her wishes held a lot of weight. How old was she at the time? Too much math. If the mother and father wanted to terminate the mother's parental rights, it wouldn't have required the step-parent to adopt or the kid's consent. That doesn't make sense. Leaving all of that aside, a 17-year-old excusing themselves from a conversation that shouldn't include them and siblings and just plays on repeat is not the idiot. Comment 2. I get why she never liked your mom and why she is keeping you all at a distance. Your mom and dad are bullies. She said no when she was 10, and for 14 years they have constantly brought up what a horrible thing it was for her to want a relationship with her mom. I can only imagine all the pressure that was put on her and all the times they badmouthed her mom. I wouldn't be surprised if she one day goes no contact with your dad. Not the idiot now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a week since I walked out during breakfast, and a lot has happened since then. The day after the incident, my parents sat me down for a serious talk. They apologized for bringing up the non-adoption topic again, especially in front of our extended family. They acknowledged that they had promised to stop discussing it around us kids, and they felt bad for breaking that promise. However, they also expressed their disappointment in how I handled the situation. They said that walking out without a word was disrespectful and immature, and that I should have found a better way to communicate my feelings. I listened to their perspective and apologized for my abrupt exit. I explained that I felt overwhelmed and frustrated in the moment, and leaving seemed like the only way to avoid a confrontation. We had an honest discussion about how we could all handle these situations better in the future. My parents agreed to be more mindful of the topics they bring up, especially around family, and I promised to communicate my feelings more calmly and respectfully. Later that week, my half-sister surprised us with a visit. She had heard about what happened from our grandparents and wanted to talk to me about it. We had a heart-to-heart conversation, and she shared some things I never knew before. She told me that her decision not to be adopted by my mom was more complicated than I realized. It wasn't just about her loyalty to her biological mom. She also struggled with the idea of replacing her mom and feared that it would change her relationship with our dad. She apologized for not being closer to us growing up and admitted that she had been dealing with her own emotional baggage. She said she regretted letting it affect her relationship with us and wanted to make an effort to be more present in our lives. I was touched by her honesty and vulnerability, and it helped me understand her perspective better. The visit from my half-sister sparked some important conversations within our family. My parents realized that they had been holding on to resentment about the non-adoption for too long, and it was affecting their relationship with my half-sister and us kids. They decided to seek family counseling to work through these issues and learn healthier ways to communicate and support each other. In the meantime, my half-sister has been making more of an effort to spend time with us. She's been coming over for dinner once a week and even took my sisters and me out for a fun sibling day last weekend. It's been really nice getting to know her better and building a stronger relationship. Looking back, I realized that walking out during breakfast was not the best way to handle my frustration, but it ended up being a turning point for our family. It forced us to confront some deep-seated issues and have some difficult but necessary conversations. I'm hopeful that with time and effort, we can all learn to communicate better and support each other more fully. Thanks for reading and for all your advice and encouragement. It means a lot to have this community to turn to when things get tough. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.